Hello there. Today I wanted to share an unusual, weird experience that I had growing up. Because recently it kind of this memory kind of just randomly popped up in my head, and I kind of just remembered it happening while I was growing up, or this happened while growing up, and I kind of wanted to talk about it, share it with people, because maybe, just maybe, this is something similar has happened to someone out there, and they can, leave a comment about it and say that I'm not the only one that this has happened to, or this kind of thing has happened to. So yeah, I've talked about my dad in other videos. I've even talked about my dad's side of the family in other videos. So yeah, this thing has to do with my dad's side of the family. My cousins, my relatives on that side of the family, yeah, them. So I'll start off by saying that way back in the day when I was really younger, I used to go to my grandma's C's house, which is my dad's mom, my grandma on my dad's side, yeah. Her. I used to go to her house for the holidays, like, Thanksgiving, Easter sometimes, and even Christmas. Yes. I used to go to her house, and usually it just consisted of me eating food, watching TV, and getting Christmas presents when it was Christmas. And that's really all these... excuse me. It's really when all these kind of visits consisted of, was just me sitting there eating food, watching TV, and that's about it. Sometimes playing my Game Boy when I brought it along, but yeah, that's really all that ever happened there. And I really didn't really have anybody to talk to, or hang out with, or do anything with while I was over there, because either all my cousins, my relatives, were either adults, or they were really, really, really young. Like they were like fucking 3 or 4 years old or something. And I really couldn't hang out with them or be around them, because, I was like 10 or 11 or 12 most of the time, especially during this time. So, yeah, couldn't really hang out with them. So eventually, I did find, there did come along someone who I could finally hang out with. My Uncle Chuck got married, and his wife had a daughter. And they started bringing her to these family get-togethers. And their daughter, or her daughter I should say, because she wasn't related to Chuck, Uncle Chuck, in any way. Not biologically. She might have been related to him by marriage now, but she wasn't biologically related to him. She was from my Uncle Chuck's wife's first marriage, I guess, a previous marriage. And yeah, so in reality she really wasn't my cousin, but I didn't know that back then. I still considered her a relative and a cousin. So yeah, they started coming around, and she was a year younger than me, but close to my age. So finally I had someone to fucking talk to, someone to hang out with, someone I could, actually speak to without seeming like a little stupid kid, or anything like that. So finally I had someone to talk to, and we spent a lot of time together. We hung out, we talked, we fucking talked about cartoons, Pokemon, school, stupid shitty stuff in school, and Friends, and SpongeBob, and normal kid to teenager, early adolescent stuff, and we did a lot of other stuff together. Like, we walked in the woods outside by Grandma's house, Grandma C's house, and We also climbed trees together just because, you know, it's a kid thing to do. And, you know, I consider her a friend and my cousin. Nothing really more, nothing really less. And, yeah. But of course, you know, someone had to ruin this. Someone, this had to be fucking, this whole good experience, me actually getting along with her and, you know, being friends with her and nothing weird or unusual or anything like that happening. Something had to come along and fucking make it weird, make it unusual, make it uncomfortable. My fucking, some of my relatives on my dad's side of my family, I'm not naming specific ones because I'm not gonna bother, but some of them started making these fucking weird comments to me and to her too. They started making these weird comments about us. You know, like one time they said, "Is she your girlfriend?" or something like that. And I'm like, what? No. She's my fucking cousin. I didn't say fucking, of course, back then, but I was just weirded out. My face scrunched up, and I didn't really know how to react to that properly. And then there was stuff like, "You guys should date each other." I'm like, are you serious? We're cousins. Even if we're not related through blood or marriage or whatever. Because I really didn't find out that she wasn't really related to me till way later. Or, you know, she wasn't related to me till way later. But still, it's just, why would you say something like that? That's just weird. It's just fucking gross, too. You know, and then they would even make comments to her saying, asking me if I was her boyfriend, or that we looked cute together, or something like that. I'm like, ew, no. And it just made both of us fucking uncomfortable. And sometimes I feel like it created this weird uncomfortableness that we would literally try to get away from these fucking adults in our own fucking family. Like, we would literally sometimes go take a long fucking walk around the fucking my grandma's property, or in the woods, or fucking whatever, just so we could get away from them, so they wouldn't make these weird ass fucking comments about, you know what I said earlier. Like, seriously. It was just fucking weird, bizarre, uncomfortable, gross, and yeah. And this was one of the reasons why I stopped going to my Grandma C's house eventually. It was one of the reasons that led up to other reasons, and yeah. It was just, ugh. And I don't know if she remembers it. I have no idea. We've drifted apart since then, since I stopped going and to my Grandma C's house, and I've grew up, and we both got older. She's married, and she has a kid now, so I have no idea if she would even vaguely remember any of this. I do, though, because, like I said, this memory just kind of just popped in my fucking brain out of nowhere, and I'm like, yeah, that fucking happened, didn't it? It was, like, seriously. Why did my fucking relatives do this? My dad's side of the family. Why did they do this? And why was this fucking normalized, too? Like, when they said these fucking weird, uncomfortable fucking comments to either of us, no one else batted a goddamn eye. None of the other relatives said anything. Sometimes they fucking laughed and just shrugged it off and said nothing. Why was this fucking normalized? Why was this kind of fucking behavior normalized? Like, seriously, why? It's just fucking weird and gross and creepy. Even my own dad laughed one time. I remember this kind of specifically. He laughed one time. One of my relatives made a comment about me and this cousin dating, he laughed. And I'm like, my own dad laughed. I'm like, why is this thing, why is whatever this was, whatever you could call this, people said, well, maybe they were promoting incest or something. I don't know. I really don't know. If that's the case, I'm glad I never get to see my dad, that specific side of my dad's side of the family anymore. Because if that's the case, I don't want to see him. I really don't. If they were fucking promoting incest or just maybe open to it or something, I don't know. Or didn't care about it. I don't know. It was just weird, uncomfortable, strange, bizarre, and it shouldn't have been fucking a thing at all. It shouldn't have been normalized. Someone should have fucking said something. I was a kid. I was a teenager. 13, 12, 13, 14. We were kids. Me and her were kids. We couldn't freely say anything, and even if we did, they would tell us that we were talking nonsense, or they wouldn't listen to us, or they would make it not a big deal. Like, oh, they would say something to make it sound like it wasn't serious or wasn't that big of a deal. It was just creepy, unusual, weird, uncomfortable. Like, oh, God. And I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. So, yeah. If you've went through anything like this before, which I have no idea if anybody ever has, please leave a comment about it to some degree. Don't mention names. Don't mention anything like that. Like, don't mention your family members' names or anything like that. But if you have had something like this, some kind of weird, uncomfortable, incestual kind of, or anything like that, if you feel comfortable enough to tell me, or to leave a comment like that, telling me about, go ahead, leave a comment down below, telling me about it. I would love to know that I'm not the only one who's had a weird, uncomfortable kind of experience like this with a relative, or with relatives. So, yeah. That's the video. See everybody later.